news in terms of, I mean, we're talking about worldwide tariffs, obviously, but when it comes
Hmm.
to automobiles, this is huge, especially for, say, Japanese and Korean automakers, but everyone generally, because at least some car parts are coming from somewhere not in the United States. Isn't that correct?
Right. I think most people would be surprised to find that many traditionally thought of as foreign automakers or imports are actually made right here in the US, many in Texas and many in the South. But traditionally thought of as domestic brands make either part or whole of their car outside the US, technically across the border in Canada or Mexico. So it will have an impact because there's no such thing as a 100% domestic car for the US right now.
So for consumers, for instance, what does this mean if you're saying, oh, I need to say you crash your car and you don't have a choice, you can't put it off. I'm going to go buy a car. I'm going to go buy a car this weekend
Right.
or next week. What does that mean in terms of pricing? What does that mean into, is there going to be a higher demand or lower demand? What do you foresee happening with the price?
There's going to be higher demand right off the bat. And if I was a consumer that was already in the position of buying a new car or even a used car, like let's just say that you are already on that road, I don't see how waiting can help. I would probably start that as soon as possible. Now, if you weren't going to buy a car, I certainly wouldn't let headlines or politics or any of those things determine your big purchase decision today because that could change. But if you're already in the market and you are on that road now, speeding things up just a little bit is certainly not going to hurt.
So, what kind of price increase do you think we're going to see, and when do you think that begins to happen?
I think we'll see that within the next few weeks. It's possible that some dealers can already mark the cars they have up just in anticipation of there being a lull or to match the prices that are coming. We don't know that. I haven't seen that yet, but I would say a couple $1,000s on, mid to higher price cars would not be uncommon. More than likely, automakers are going to try to spread any tariffs they incur across multiple vehicles in their line because most automakers build some cars here in the US and some cars overseas. Many of them source parts from here in the US, and that's good. So that will work out well. But they're not going to just raise the price on one car while doing nothing on the other. They're going to even it out as much as possible because an expensive, say, a $90,000 pickup can certainly withstand a $3,500 increase, whereas a $25,000 economy car can't withstand that. So they're going to even it out some way. We don't know the exact way just yet.
Can you foresee at this point what impact this might have on the dealerships themselves in terms of, I don't know, if workforce gets impacted or how busy they are or anything else in the day-to-day life of a dealership?
Right. So short term, dealerships are going to need extra help because they're going to have to deal with all the people wanting to come buy the cars that they currently already have in their inventory. Midterm, there might be a bit of lull in sales, but long term, it may end up helping. We don't know that yet, but one thing is important to keep in mind. Dealerships are sort of the victims of this tariff the same way the consumer is. A dealership purchases their cars, their inventory from the automaker. So they're in the same boat as the consumers, and they can pass that on to the consumer or they can absorb some of the cost. The same with the automaker. The automaker can choose to absorb some of the cost or pass all that on to the dealer and then therefore the consumer.
Is there going to be an effect on the used car market?
Absolutely, there will be. One thing to keep in mind about used cars is that no matter who's president, we're already looking at low inventory for used cars. And that's because pandemic era new cars that weren't built, because remember, they slowed down their production thinking there wouldn't be demand. Well, all those new cars that we didn't make then are now used cars that are not in the marketplace today. So 2025 and 2026, used car prices were going to go up anyway. So what we're going to probably have is increased demand for those used cars. And when we say used cars, I'm talking about lightly used cars, say 1 to 5 years old. If you're looking for a $10,000 car with 150,000 miles, probably the price won't be impacted that much. But lightly used cars, the prices will definitely go up because demand will go up, and we're already seeing low inventory with used cars.
Can you talk about any other time when tariffs have impacted the auto market like this? You know, when we talk about like 1930, I mean, autos weren't as big of a deal as they are right now. We're
Right.
much more dependent on them. So that's not an easy parallel to draw. What does it mean in today's society? And is this, in the long term, is it bad? Like everybody, we've got a lot of headlines, or could it be good? Like,
It could end up being good. Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. It could end up being good in the long run. But remember, sometimes when there's long-term gains, there may be short-term pains. The closest thing I can think of to make this direct parallel is probably in the 70s and 80s when there was sort of this wave of new Japanese cars making their way into the US. And although it didn't work out exactly the same way that we're seeing right now in the political landscape, the previous administrations did come up with a plan to get Japanese automakers to come over here and build their cars in the US. So that's why you have Toyota has a very strong manufacturing presence in Texas. Toyota, Honda, Mercedes-Benz, Volvo all make some of their cars right here in the US, much of that in the South. So there is a parallel. Just today's headlines are a little bit more readily available. Everybody has a device, everybody has the TV on. So it seems like more of an impact. And the prices are going to go up. Nobody wants to pay more for anything, and rightfully so. So that's why it's getting a lot of attention.
anything else that I'm missing or that I should know going into this story?
I think one thing to keep in mind, and this is especially true for consumers, remember part of this tariff thing has to do with parts, where the parts are sourced and where the parts come from. Most automakers today don't build the entire car themselves. Things like brakes, taillights, seats, or radios might come from a supplier, and that same supplier might be the one that provides the parts to your local auto parts store. So if I were a consumer that had a car that I suspected might need some maintenance or a serious repair in the near future, I would make that appointment with my local mechanic right now so that you can get in line and make sure that you get the parts that you need.
All right, very good. Thank you, Brian.